only there for like an hour.
Yeah.
So the question is, who's taking care of the patient the other 23 hours of the day?
Yeah.
Like, we can be called on to come back, but those 23 hours are important. And if one person's doing that, that's hard.
Yeah.
Because when is that person going to rest? When are they going to see the doctor for themselves?
Sure.
They've got to get groceries. It's tough.
Welcome. This is the first episode of the Easy Care Decision podcast. My name is Josh Ellis. I'm here with Roger Walters, and we're just going to break down our background, our expertise on why we're here and why we're having this conversation. We are actually sitting here at my grandparents' coffee table, and we're going to have a discussion that's going to come into play here in a minute. But before that, let's do a quick introduction. I'll give you my background. My name is Josh Ellis. Like I said, I'm a financial advisor here in Central Florida. Roger is actually a client. He's a friend of mine, and have walked through some of these care decisions with my clients over the years. And in my early years, not so well as I would have liked to, right? And so that's part of the heart behind this. But Roger, I think I said you're a hospice nurse. Will you tell everyone just a little bit more about yourself and your background?
Yeah, so I've been a nurse for almost 15 years now.
Okay.
The last decade has been spent in hospice, which has really revolutionized the way I've looked at healthcare altogether.
Okay. So when you say hospice, what is hospice care?
Yeah, so it's a scary word, right? People think hospice, they think, oh, it's time to leave. But really, hospice care is palliative care, which means symptom management. So, towards the end of our lives, different conditions can make us uncomfortable, breathing, pain, not sleeping well, being anxious. And hospice is a specialty, and the specialty is comfort. So whatever is making people uncomfortable, we're really good at correcting that.
Cool. Okay. And so you said you've been doing that for over a decade. And so with most people in hospice care, what is that typical age range? Is that, middle age, or is that that's more towards end of life, right?
It is. Because of the diagnosis that the bulk or the majority of hospice patients have, which is neurological related, anything dementias, Alzheimer's, those tend to be with the older generation.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. So that's a little bit of our background, and the heart of this, where we came with this on the Easy Care Decision, is Roger and I were sitting at his kitchen table, and I'm telling him the story of my grandparents, what they walked through on their end of life situation of my grandmother taking care of my grandfather, and how tough that was. And then paired that with a client of mine who was going through a really hard time at her end of life, what it was doing to her family, the siblings, her kids, just at odds of who's taking care and all of those things. And we're sitting there at the table, and I'm pouring out my heart to Roger, and basically it was, that's cool. Not that's cool, but like, you've got those couple of stories. I've got those every day. Yeah. So Roger, what do you see consistently on a day-to-day basis in terms of, let's start with, who is the one that is the primary caretaker of people? Hopefully it's you or other medical professionals, but is that what you see every day?
Yeah. No matter where we're doing hospice, whether it's in someone's home or a facility, wherever the person lives, right, there's always a primary caregiver. This is the person who helps that person through their days, through their nights. And many times it is one person.
Okay.
And that's hard, right? And that's what we see. We get to come in with our whole team of people.
Yep.
We've got our nurses, our home health aides, our doctors, nurse practitioners, like this whole team. But when we're there to help, we're only there for like an hour.
Yeah.
So the question is, who's taking care of the patient the other 23 hours of the day?
Yeah.
Like, we can be called on to come back, but those 23 hours are important. And if one person's doing that, that's hard.
Yeah.
Because when is that person going to rest? When are they going to see the doctor for themselves?
Sure.
They've got to get groceries. It's tough. And so those are the stories. When you were telling your story,
Yeah.
that's what I thought, man, this is what we see every day. It's hard.
Yep.
You know?
And so in my situation, it was with my family. My grandmother was the primary caretaker for my grandfather, and he was a bigger guy. She was 100 pounds soaking wet, and trying to lifted him up out of the seat. Just all the things that came with just your normal daily living was a struggle. And then for my client, it was her. She was left as a widow. And there's so many statistics behind this, but she had taken care of her husband. Now he had passed. Now she needs care.
Yeah.
She's got 3 kids. And like you had said, it's typically the one person. It was one sibling. It was one of the siblings that took care of her. And you can imagine some of the frustration that goes on of the other kids might not care about me as much. All the burden lands on the one child. And so again, I was sharing that with you. You said that you see that a lot of it's the one person.
Yeah.
Is it usually the spouse? Is it usually the one kid? What are you seeing that way?
It's more times than not, it's the spouse. It's your grandmother who is tiny, trying to take care of her very large husband.
Yeah.
But typically there is usually a friend or a child or a brother or a sister that usually will look in at the situation, realize more help is needed, and will step in. But as you said, it's the one person most of the time, and really this takes a village.
Yeah. So, like we said, we had this conversation at the dining room table, and my story of what I walked through with my clients, with my own family, set me on a search as a financial advisor to say there has to be solutions that are better than even the traditional long-term care insurance policies that are out there. Some people put tens, even hundreds of thousands of dollars into them, and we can talk statistics later. The odds of you needing it are very high, but what if you don't need it?
Yeah.
I am not a fan of putting money into something that I can't get any value out of, or that my family doesn't get. Not just intrinsic value. Intrinsic value is nice, but I'm a math guy. Like I want some other value outside of just intrinsic. Like both are important. There's a balance here. And so as we had this conversation of you're the medical side, you see the families, like you're with them, you're crying with, like you see the emotional side of it. And I do too, but then pair that with the logic of where is there a solution? And that's where we came up with Easy Care Decision, because the decision is way easier when it's not urgent. And a lot of times, and you can speak to this, of how many times are families trying to figure it out when the care is needed, right? What do you see that way?
The most unfortunate part of that is that more times than not, families aren't ready.
Yeah.
When we start telling them what we can do as hospice versus the 23 hours of the day that they're going to have to be the primary caregiver, like this is all new to them.
Yeah.
And they're not ready. Monetarily, they're not ready. Family and friends, if they made a plan, maybe more people would be able to step in, but it's hard to ask people to stop their lives to come and all of a sudden take care of this. And, more times than not, it's a fall, or it's, something happens with the heart or the mind. These are the things you can't exactly go, oh, on this date and this time, this is when this is going to happen.
Yeah.
A lot of times these are surprises. No one is prepared for them.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. And on the mental side of things, a lot of times there's not maybe one incident. You can see the progression of it,
right,
and it pushes families into coming up with a plan. It's still, that's better planning timing wise than it is sudden. Someone fell, broke a hip, and now everyone's world is turned upside down. And so what we're here to do, and what the rest of this podcast and just all our social media sites, our website, our webinars that we're doing each week. The heart behind that is to give people the knowledge that's out there, help families start to have those conversations. And, on the next episode, what we're going to talk about is all these terms that are out there. There are so many things, just industry jargon that you and I can get guilty of saying on the medical side, on the financial side. And so we want to help you know what those terms are, what they really mean to you and your family. And then we'll have a lot of other episodes on the other stuff. So thanks for listening. Just be on the lookout for other podcasts coming out, and we'll talk to you soon.